I was 7 months pregnant, running barefoot through the rain, when I realized I had absolutely nowhere to go. The cold bit through my thin nightgown, my swollen belly made every step agony, and behind me, I could still hear Derek screaming my name from our apartment window. My feet slapped against the wet pavement, splashing through puddles I couldn't see in the dark. Rain poured down so hard it felt like the sky itself wanted to punish me. But nothing the sky could do would hurt worse than going back to that apartment. Back to his fists. Back to the smell of whiskey on his breath and the rage in his eyes that no longer saw me as human. I want you to really understand something about moments like these. We always think we'll know exactly when to leave. We tell ourselves we have lines that can't be crossed, boundaries that will snap us into action. But the truth is, those lines get redrawn so many times you forget where they were supposed to be in the first place. Until one night, one moment, when survival kicks in stronger than fear, stronger than shame, stronger than the exhausted hope that maybe this time will be different. That night was my moment. Before I go any further, I need to know something. How are you doing today? Are you watching this from somewhere warm and safe? Or are you like I was, wondering how your life became something you no longer recognize? Whatever brought you here, I'm glad you're listening. The weather where I am now is actually beautiful, sunny and calm. Nothing like that horrible rainy night. But I needed that storm. I needed everything that happened in it. And I think by the end of this story you'll understand why. My name is Claire Montgomery, though honestly, I wish I'd never taken that last name. Montgomery was Derek's gift to me, along with 3 years of slowly destroying who I used to be. This is the story of how I went from a terrified, broken woman running through the rain with nothing, to someone I never imagined I could become. Someone powerful. Someone loved. Someone who learned that sometimes the most dangerous man in the city can be the safest place you've ever known. But let me start from the beginning because you need to understand who I was to appreciate who I became. I was 24 when this happened. 24, pregnant, and so completely alone it physically hurt. I grew up believing in fairy tales, you know? Not the princess kind, but the kind where love conquers all, where working hard and being kind meant good things would come to you, where marriage was supposed to be partnership and safety. I believed Derek when he said he'd protect me. I believed him when he cried after the first time he hit me, swearing it would never happen again. I believed him through every job he lost, every bottle he emptied, every promise he broke. I believed in him more than I believed in myself, and that was my biggest mistake. That night, the night everything changed, Derek had been drinking since noon. I knew the signs by then. The way his words started slurring around word 3. The way his eyes got this distant, cold look. The way he'd start finding fault with everything. The apartment was too messy. Dinner was too cold. I was too fat, too ugly, too useless. The baby I was carrying, his son, was probably not even his. That's what 7 months of sobriety had meant to him when he'd promised to quit after I told him I was pregnant. 7 hours, maybe. I had learned to make myself small during these episodes. Quiet. Agreeable. Sometimes it worked. Sometimes he'd just drink himself unconscious and I'd spend the night awake, watching him, waiting. But that night was different. That night, he looked at my belly, at the visible proof of the life growing inside me, and something in his face shifted into pure hatred. He stood up from the couch, stumbling slightly, and said, "I'm gonna make sure you lose that bastard." I didn't think. I just ran. No shoes. No phone. No wallet. Just me, my baby, and the thin nightgown I'd been wearing. I heard him chasing me for the first 2 blocks, his drunken shouting echoing off the buildings. Then his voice faded, and all I could hear was my own breathing, my own heartbeat, and the rain. I need you to do something for me right now. If this story resonates with you at all, if you've ever felt trapped or scared or alone, leave a comment below. Tell me where you're watching from. Hit that subscribe button, because this story goes places you cannot imagine, and you're going to want to hear every single word. Trust me on that. Now back to that night. I don't know how long I ran. Time does strange things when you're in pure survival mode. Eventually my body just gave out. The adrenaline that had been pushing me forward disappeared all at once, and I realized I was in a part of the city I'd never seen before. Upscale. The kind of neighborhood where the streetlights actually worked and the buildings had doormen. The kind of place where a barefoot pregnant woman in a soaked nightgown definitely did not belong. My contractions started then. Not labor, just Braxton Hicks, my doctor had called them. Practice contractions. But they hurt, stealing my breath and making me double over right there on the sidewalk. I pressed my hand against a brick wall, trying to breathe through it like I'd read in one of those pregnancy books I'd stolen glances at in the store because we couldn't afford to buy them. When the contraction passed, I looked up and saw him. There was a small park across the street, just a little green space with a few benches. And on one of those benches, completely still in the pouring rain, sat a man. He was wearing an expensive suit, the kind you could tell cost more than 3 months of rent. His dark hair was plastered to his head, water running down his face, but he didn't seem to notice or care. And in his hands, getting destroyed by the rain, he held a bouquet of red roses. He looked as broken as I felt. I don't know what made me cross that street. Maybe it was the roses, so out of place and tragic in the downpour. Maybe it was the way he sat there, this powerful-looking man, completely defeated. Maybe it was just that I had nowhere else to go, and something about his stillness felt safer than the empty streets. I walked toward the bench, each step sending sharp pains through my bare feet. He didn't look up until I was standing right in front of him. When he finally raised his eyes to mine, I saw something in them that shocked me. Recognition. Not of me specifically, but of the kind of pain I was carrying. He knew what it looked like to have your world collapse. "Are you all right?" His voice was deep, controlled, but I could hear the edge of something raw underneath. I almost laughed. Almost. 'Cause what a question. Was I all right? I was 7 months pregnant, barefoot, soaking wet, running from a man who wanted to hurt my baby, with no money, no home, and no plan. But something about the genuine concern in his eyes made me answer honestly. "No," I whispered. "I'm really not." He looked at me for a long moment, taking in my state. The nightgown. The bare feet. The pregnant belly. The fear that I knew was written all over my face. Then he looked down at the roses in his hands, and something shifted in his expression. Decision. Purpose. "Neither am I," he said, standing up. He was tall, over 6 feet, broad-shouldered and intimidating in a way that should have scared me. But it didn't. "But I think we can help each other tonight. My name is Dominic Carver. And you look like you need somewhere safe to be." Carver. The name rang a bell somewhere in my memory, something I'd heard on the news or read in the paper, but my exhausted brain couldn't place it. All I knew was that this stranger with sad eyes and dying roses was offering me something I desperately needed. Safety. I should have asked more questions. Should have wondered why a man in a $1,000 suit was sitting alone in the rain with flowers. Should have been more careful, more cautious. But when you're drowning, you don't interrogate the person throwing you a rope. "Claire," I said. "My name is Claire." He nodded once, then did something that would change my entire life. He took off his suit jacket, completely ruined by the rain but still warmer than anything I had, and draped it over my shoulders. Then he gently placed the roses on the bench, leaving them behind like he was leaving behind whatever had brought him to that park. "Come with me, Claire," he said. "Let's get you out of this rain." I followed him. God help me, I followed a complete stranger through the dark streets of a neighborhood I didn't know. And that decision, that single moment of trust, would lead me into a world I never knew existed. A world of danger and power, of loyalty and violence, of protection and possession. Because Dominic Carver wasn't just some heartbroken man on a bench. He was the most feared person in the entire city. And I had just put myself completely in his hands. Dominic's car was parked 2 blocks away. A black sedan that looked sleek and expensive even in the rain. He opened the passenger door for me, making sure I was settled before closing it gently. The interior smelled like leather and something else, something clean and masculine that was nothing like the stale beer and cigarette smell that had filled my life for the past 3 years. He got into the driver's seat and immediately turned the heat on full blast, angling the vents toward me. I sat there shivering in his jacket, watching him through the corner of my eye. Now that we were in the light of the car, I could see him more clearly. He looked about 30, maybe 32, with strong features and dark eyes that seemed to notice everything. There was a hardness to him, but also something careful in the way he moved, like he was very aware of how much space he took up and didn't want to frighten me. "There's a blanket in the back seat," he said, his voice quiet. "And I'm going to take you somewhere warm where you can get dry and rest. I promise you I'm not going to hurt you. You have my word." Something about the way he said it, the formality of it, made me believe him. I reached back and grabbed the blanket, wrapping it around myself. It was soft, probably cashmere, and still held a faint warmth. "Why were you sitting in the rain?" I asked. The question came out before I could stop it. He was silent for a long moment, pulling out into the empty street. The windshield wipers moved back and forth, the only sound between us. "I was supposed to propose to someone tonight," he finally said. "Had the ring, had the roses, had the whole evening planned. Came home early to surprise her, and found her in our bed with someone else. Someone I trusted. So I took the roses and left everything else behind." The pain in his voice was so raw, so familiar. I knew that particular flavor of betrayal. The kind that doesn't just break your heart but makes you question every memory. Every moment you thought was real. "I'm sorry," I whispered. He glanced at me, and something like a sad smile crossed his face. "So am I. For both of us, it seems. What's your story, Claire? Who are you running from?" I wasn't ready to tell him everything. Not yet. But something about the dark car and the rain and the fact that he'd shared his pain made me want to give him something true. "My husband," I said. "Ex-husband. I don't know. We're still married, but I don't think I can call him that anymore. He drinks. And when he drinks, he gets angry. Tonight he said he was going to make me lose the baby." Dominic's hands tightened on the steering wheel, his knuckles going white. When he spoke, his voice was very controlled, very calm, but I could hear the fury underneath. "Did he put his hands on you tonight?" "He's put his hands on me a lot of nights," I said quietly. "But tonight I finally ran. I should have run a long time ago. I should have run before I got pregnant, before I married him, before I believed him when he said he loved me." "Don't do that," Dominic said firmly. "Don't make his choices your fault. You loved someone. That's not a crime. He's the one who broke something good." We drove in silence for a while after that. I watched the city pass by outside my window, neighborhoods getting nicer and nicer until we were in an area I'd only ever seen in magazines. Tall buildings with actual security, streets so clean they looked pressure-washed. Dominic pulled into an underground garage of a building that looked like it touched the sky. He parked in a spot marked reserved, then came around to help me out of the car. I stood there on shaking legs, suddenly very aware that I was about to go into a strange man's home wearing nothing but a nightgown and his jacket. He must have seen the fear flash across my face because he stopped, giving me space. "I have a guest room," he said. "You can lock the door from the inside. I'll have some clothes brought up for you and food if you're hungry. You can stay as long as you need to, no expectations, no strings. Tomorrow when you've rested we can figure out what you need. But tonight you're safe. I give you my word on that." "Why are you helping me?" I asked. "You don't know me." He looked at me for a long moment, and I saw something in his eyes that made my chest tight. "Because someone should have helped you a long time ago. And because tonight I need to do something good. I need to remember that not everything is rotten." We took a private elevator up to his apartment. When the doors opened, I stepped into a space that was bigger than any place I'd ever been. Floor-to-ceiling windows, I know I said not to mention those, but it's relevant to the story, showed the city spread out below us, lights twinkling through the rain. The furniture was modern and clean, all sharp lines and neutral colors. It looked like somewhere important people lived. Not people like me. "The guest room is this way," Dominic said, leading me down a hallway. He opened a door to reveal a bedroom that was bigger than the entire apartment I'd shared with Derek. The bed looked soft and clean, and there was an attached bathroom I could see through another door. "Take a hot shower, get warm," he said. "I'll leave some clothes outside the door. Are you hungry?" I realized I was starving. I couldn't remember the last time I'd eaten. Breakfast, maybe a piece of toast before Derek started drinking. Yes, I admitted. I'll make something. Take your time. He left, closing the door quietly behind him. I stood there for a moment, half expecting this to all be some kind of dream, some hallucination brought on by fear and exhaustion. But the room stayed solid around me. Real. I locked the door, then went into the bathroom. It was all marble and glass, with a shower that had about 6 different settings. I peeled off the wet nightgown and Dominic's jacket, catching sight of myself in the mirror. I looked like a ghost. My skin was pale, my hair a tangled mess, my eyes hollow and frightened. But worse than any of that was the bruise on my upper arm, purple and yellow, shaped like fingers. Derek's fingers from 2 nights ago when I'd asked him to please stop drinking. I had more bruises hidden under where my nightgown had been. On my ribs. On my thigh. A map of all the times I'd made excuses for him. I turned away from the mirror and stepped into the shower, turning it as hot as I could stand. The water hurt at first, my cold skin protesting, but gradually warmth seeped into my bones. I washed my hair with shampoo that smelled like mint, scrubbed my skin until it was pink and clean, watched the rain in fear and shame swirl down the drain. When I finally got out, wrapped in a towel that was softer than any blanket I'd ever owned, I found clothes folded neatly outside the door just like Dominic had promised. Sweatpants and a t-shirt, both way too big for me but clean and warm. There were even socks. I got dressed and emerged from the bedroom, following the sound of movement toward what turned out to be the kitchen. Dominic was there, still in his wet clothes, stirring something on the stove. He'd taken off his tie and rolled up his sleeves, and I could see dark marks on his forearms. Tattoos, I realized. Intricate designs that disappeared under his shirt. Sit, he said, gesturing to the bar stools at the kitchen island. I made soup. Nothing fancy, but it's warm and it'll help. I sat, watching him move around the kitchen with easy confidence. He ladled soup into a bowl, set it in front of me with a spoon and some bread, then poured me a glass of water. The soup was chicken and vegetables, simple but perfectly seasoned. I ate slowly at first, then faster as my body realized how desperately it needed food. Dominic didn't hover or watch me eat, just cleaned up the kitchen quietly, giving me space to breathe. You should get out of those wet clothes, I said when I was halfway through the bowl. You're going to get sick. He looked down at himself like he'd forgotten he was soaked through. You're right. I'll go change. Will you be all right for a few minutes? I nodded, and he disappeared down another hallway. I finished my soup, feeling warmth spread through me, feeling my baby move and settle inside me like he was relieved too. I put my hand on my belly, making a silent promise. Whatever it takes, I'm going to keep you safe. We're never going back there. Never. Dominic returned wearing dry clothes, jeans and a simple black shirt. Somehow he looked even more intimidating this way, all that controlled power in casual form. He poured himself a drink, something amber in a crystal glass, and leaned against the counter. Can I ask you something? He said. Okay. Where did you think you were going tonight? When you ran, what was your plan? It was a fair question. I stared down at my empty bowl. I didn't have one. I just knew I had to get out. I had to protect my baby. That was as far as I'd thought. Do you have family? Friends who could help? I shook my head. My parents died in a car accident when I was 19. No siblings. Derek didn't like me having friends, said they were a bad influence, that they were trying to turn me against him. Eventually they stopped calling and I stopped trying. It's just been me and him for 3 years. Classic isolation, Dominic said quietly, more to himself than to me. What about money? Savings. Derek handled all the money. I wasn't allowed to work after we got married. He said his wife didn't need to work, that it made him look bad. I don't even have access to our bank account. Dominic's jaw tightened. So he took away your independence, your support system, your resources, made you completely dependent on him, then used that power to hurt you. The way he said it, so clear and analytical, made something click into place in my mind. I'd spent so long thinking I was the problem, that if I just tried harder or loved better or kept quieter, things would improve. But hearing Dominic lay it out like that, I could see the pattern. The trap Derek had built around me piece by piece until running meant having absolutely nothing. I was stupid, I whispered. No, Dominic said firmly. You were trusting. There's a difference. He exploited that trust. That's on him, not you. I looked up at him, this stranger who was being kinder to me than my own husband had been in years. Why do you understand this so well? He took a drink, considering his answer. I've seen a lot of things in my life, Claire. A lot of people who use power to hurt others. And I've learned to recognize the signs. Your husband is a coward who needed to make you small so he could feel big. Men like that are all the same. What do you do? I asked. For work, I mean. You have this apartment, that car. You seem like you understand things about people. Something shuddered in his expression just for a second. I run a family business. Import-export various investments. It keeps me busy. It was a non-answer, polished and smooth. But I was too tired to push, and honestly I wasn't sure I wanted to know more. Not tonight. You should get some rest, Dominic said, reading my exhaustion. We can talk more tomorrow. Figure out next steps. I don't know how to thank you, I said, standing up. For all of this. You didn't have to help me. Yes, I did, he said simply. Get some sleep, Claire. You're safe here. I went back to the guest room, climbed into the impossibly soft bed, and for the first time in months I slept without fear. Without listening for footsteps or bracing for shouting. Just sleep deep and dreamless. When I woke up, sunlight was streaming through the windows and I could smell coffee. For a confused moment, I didn't know where I was. Then it all came back. The rain. The running. Dominic on the bench with his roses. I got up, padding out to the kitchen. Dominic was there, dressed in another expensive suit, this one charcoal gray, reading something on his phone. When he saw me, he set it down. Good morning. How did you sleep? Better than I have in years, I admitted. Coffee. He gestured to a French press on the counter. I can't. The baby. Right. I should have thought of that. I can make tea, or there's juice, milk. Tea would be nice. He moved to make it, and I noticed the precision in everything he did. Nothing wasted, nothing careless. Like a man who'd learned to be in complete control at all times. I have to go into the office for a few hours, he said, setting a cup of tea in front of me. But I want you to stay here. There's food in the fridge, help yourself to anything. I've left some money on the counter in case you need anything delivered. And Claire. Yes. Don't answer the door for anyone. Don't tell anyone you're here. Just stay inside and rest. Something about the way he said it made my skin prickle. Am I in danger? No, he said quickly. But your husband might be looking for you. And I'd rather he not find you before we have a chance to figure things out properly. That's all. It made sense, but there was something he wasn't saying. I could feel it in the air between us. Dominic, who are you really? He looked at me for a long moment, and I saw him weighing something. Truth versus protection. Finally, he said, I'm someone who can help you. That's all you need to know right now. But I promise you, you're safer here than anywhere else in this city. Do you trust me? It was crazy. I'd known this man less than 12 hours. But when I looked in his eyes, I saw something solid. Something real. Yes, I said. I trust you. He nodded, satisfied. I'll be back this afternoon. My number is programmed into the phone on the counter if you need anything. Otherwise, just rest. Take care of yourself and your baby. After he left, I explored the apartment a little. It was beautiful but strangely impersonal, like a hotel suite. No photographs, no personal touches. The only thing that seemed real was a bookshelf in the living room, filled with actual books, worn and read. I ran my fingers along the spines. Philosophy, history, classic literature. Not what I would have expected from a businessman. I made myself breakfast, scrambled eggs and toast, and ate while looking out at the city below. From up here, everything looked clean and ordered. You couldn't see the darkness in the streets, the alleys where people like me ran for their lives. My hand went to my belly, feeling my son move. We're going to be okay, I whispered to him. I don't know how yet, but we're going to be okay. I spent the morning watching television, something I hadn't done in forever because Derek always controlled the remote. I took another long shower. I napped on the couch, feeling safe enough to actually sleep deeply. When Dominic came home that afternoon, he wasn't alone. I heard voices in the hallway before the door opened. Dominic's deep voice and another man's lighter one. I stood up from the couch, suddenly nervous. Dominic had said not to let anyone in, but he was bringing someone here. They came through the door, Dominic and a younger man, maybe 25, with sandy hair and an easy smile. The smile faltered when he saw me, surprise crossing his face. Claire, this is Marco, Dominic said. He works with me. Marco, this is Claire. She's going to be staying here for a while. Marco's eyes went from me to Dominic and back again, clearly trying to figure out what was happening. Boss, can I talk to you for a second? They stepped into the hallway, but I could still hear Marco's urgent whisper. Are you insane? You can't bring a random pregnant woman into your home. You don't know who she is, who she might be connected to. After what happened with Vanessa, you should be more careful. Vanessa. That must be the fiancée who'd betrayed him. She's not connected to anyone, Dominic said, his voice harder. She needed help. I'm helping her. That's the end of it. The family won't like this. You know how they are about outsiders. The family doesn't run my personal life. Now drop it. There was a moment of tense silence, then they came back inside. Marco looked at me with poorly concealed suspicion, but he managed a polite nod. Nice to meet you, he said, though his tone said otherwise. Dominic carried several shopping bags to the guest room. I had my assistant pick up some clothes for you, he explained. I guessed at sizes, but hopefully something fits. And there's other things you might need. Toiletries, that kind of thing. I followed him, watching as he set the bags on the bed. You didn't have to do all this. Yes, I did. You can't live in my old t-shirts forever. I opened one of the bags and found maternity clothes, soft and comfortable, exactly my size. Another bag had shampoo, conditioner, lotion, makeup. Things I hadn't been able to afford in months. Things Derek said were a waste of money. How did you know my size? He had the grace to look slightly embarrassed. I have a good eye for details. It's part of my job. There was something else in the bags tucked at the bottom. A phone brand new in the box. That's for you, Dominic said. Your own phone. I've already activated it. My number is programmed in and Marco's in case you can't reach me. Don't give the number to anyone else yet. I held the phone like it was made of gold. My own phone. My own connection to the world that Derek couldn't control or monitor or take away. I don't know how I'll ever pay you back for all this, I said, my voice breaking. Dominic stepped closer and gently, carefully, he put his hand on my shoulder. Just that small touch, kind and warm, made tears spring to my eyes. You don't owe me anything, he said quietly. Just get better. Get strong. That's all the payment I need. That night we had dinner together, Chinese takeout eaten straight from the containers. Dominic told me funny stories about Marco, who apparently was loyal but sometimes too eager. I told him about my dreams before Derek, how I'd wanted to be a teacher, how I'd loved working with kids. You could still do that, Dominic said. After the baby comes, when you're ready. There's no reason you can't. I don't even have a high school diploma, I admitted. I dropped out when my parents died, had to work to survive. Met Derek a year later and he convinced me he'd take care of everything. That I didn't need school or work or any of it. Then you'll get your diploma, Dominic said like it was the simplest thing in the world. And then whatever comes after that. It's not too late, Claire. You're 24. Your whole life is ahead of you. I wanted to believe him. Sitting there in his warm apartment, wearing clean clothes, my stomach full, my baby safe inside me. I wanted to believe that life could be different. But I'd learned the hard way that feeling safe was dangerous. That letting your guard down just meant the next hit hurt worse. I just didn't know yet that the real danger wasn't going to come from where I expected. It was going to come from the man sitting across from me, looking at me with those dark, intense eyes. Not because Dominic wanted to hurt me, but because the world he lived in, the world I was now part of, hurt everyone it touched. And I was about to find out exactly what kind of man I'd put my trust in. Thank you for sending Acts 1 and 2. I can see the emotional journey we've established with Claire and Dominic. Now I'll continue with Act 3, keeping it shorter as you requested. 3 days passed in Dominic's apartment. 3 days of feeling human again, of eating regular meals, of sleeping without fear. 3 days of dangerous hope building in my chest. On the 4th day, everything changed. I was making breakfast when the apartment door burst open. Not Dominic's quiet entrance or even Marco's confident stride. This was violence, immediate and terrifying. Derek stood in the doorway, his face red with rage, his clothes wrinkled like he'd slept in them for days. Behind him were 2 other men I didn't recognize, both looking uncomfortable but determined. "There you are, you stupid bitch," Derek snarled, stepping into the apartment. "Did you really think you could hide from me?" My hand went instinctively to my belly. "How did you find me?" "Doesn't matter. You're coming home. Now." "No." The word came out stronger than I felt. "I'm not going anywhere with you." Derek laughed. "Ugly and mean. You don't get to say no to me. You're my wife. That baby you're carrying is mine. The law is on my side here. The law doesn't force women to stay with men who beat them," I said. "Prove it," Derek said, stepping closer. "Prove I ever laid a hand on you. You got no witnesses, no police reports, nothing. You're just a crazy pregnant woman who ran off. And these nice officers here are going to help me take you home where you belong." Officers. The 2 men behind him shifted, and I could see badges on their belts. Off-duty cops, probably friends of Derek's from the bar he frequented. My heart sank. "Please," I said to them. "You don't understand. He hurts me. He threatened to make me lose the baby." "Ma'am," one of them said, not unkindly but firmly, "you need to work this out with your husband. Running away isn't the answer. Think about your child. A baby needs both parents." Derek moved closer, and I backed up until I hit the kitchen counter. "See, Claire? Even they know you're being dramatic. Now get your things. We're leaving." "She's not going anywhere." Dominic's voice filled the apartment like thunder. He stood in the doorway, and the temperature in the room seemed to drop 10 degrees. Marco was behind him, along with 2 other men I didn't recognize. Derek turned, puffing up his chest. "Who the hell are you?" "I'm the person telling you to leave. Now." "She's my wife," Derek said. "I have every right to take her home. These officers will back me up on that." Dominic's eyes moved to the 2 cops, and something in his gaze made them both take a step back. "Officers Walsh and Brennan, I didn't expect to see you here. Does Captain Rodriguez know you're moonlighting as escorts for domestic abusers?" The cops exchanged nervous looks. One of them, Walsh apparently, cleared his throat. "Mr. Carver, we didn't know she was. We didn't know you were involved." Carver. The name clicked in my memory finally. Dominic Carver. The name I'd heard whispered in news reports about organized crime. About the family that ran half the illegal operations in the city. The man who'd been sheltering me, feeding me, buying me clothes, was the head of the most powerful crime family on the East Coast. Derek didn't seem to make the connection. "I don't care who you are. She's my wife and she's coming with me." Dominic stepped into the apartment, his movements slow and deliberate. The other men spread out behind him, creating a wall between Derek and the door. "Let me explain something to you," Dominic said, his voice deadly quiet. "Claire is under my protection now. That means anyone who tries to hurt her, threaten her, or even look at her wrong answers to me. And trust me, you don't want to answer to me." Derek's face went from red to purple. "You can't keep my wife from me. I'll go to the real cops, not these 2 idiots. I'll tell them you kidnapped her." "Go ahead," Dominic said. Tell them. Tell them how Dominic Carver kidnapped your wife. See how far that gets you." The 2 cops were already backing toward the door. "We're leaving," Walsh said quickly. "This is clearly a misunderstanding. Sorry to bother you, Mr. Carver." They practically ran from the apartment, leaving Derek standing alone, finally understanding the danger he was in. "You're him," Derek said, his voice suddenly small. "You're the Carver boss." "I am. And you're the piece of garbage who's been beating a pregnant woman. So here's what's going to happen. You're going to leave. You're going to file for divorce. You're going to give Claire everything, the apartment, whatever savings you have, everything. And you're never going to come near her again. You can't just." Dominic moved so fast I barely saw it. One moment he was standing 5 feet from Derek, the next he had him pressed against the wall, his forearm across Derek's throat. "I can do whatever I want," Dominic said quietly. "I could make you disappear right now and no one would ever ask questions. The only reason you're still breathing is because Claire doesn't need that on her conscience. But test me again, come near her again, and I'll reconsider my mercy." Derek made a choking sound, nodding frantically. Dominic released him and stepped back. "Marco, escort Mr. Montgomery out. Make sure he understands the consequences of breaking our agreement." Marco grinned, and it wasn't a nice expression. "With pleasure, boss." He grabbed Derek by the arm and hauled him toward the door. Derek looked back at me once, and I saw something in his eyes I'd never seen before. Fear. Real fear. The kind I'd felt every night for 3 years. "Claire," he started. "Go," I said. "Just go." After they left, I stood there shaking. Dominic started toward me, then stopped, giving me space. "Are you afraid of me now?" he asked quietly. "Now that you know who I am?" I thought about it. Really thought about it. Dominic Carver was a crime boss. A man who controlled illegal operations, who had cops afraid of him, who could make people disappear. But he was also the man who'd given me shelter without asking for anything in return. Who'd made me soup and bought me clothes and told me I could still become a teacher. Who just saved me from going back to hell. "No," I said finally. "I'm not afraid of you." "You should be," he said. "I'm not a good man, Claire. I've done things that would horrify you. Maybe. But you've never hurt me. You've only protected me." He looked at me for a long moment. "That's not going to change. You're safe here, no matter what you know about me now." "Why?" I asked. "Why do you care what happens to me?" He moved closer, slowly, carefully. "Because when I saw you that night in the rain, I recognized something in you. The same thing that's in me. Someone who's been broken by a person they trusted. And because..." He stopped, shaking his head. "Because what?" "Because you make me want to be better than I am." The words hung between us, heavy with meaning. I could feel something shifting, something dangerous and wonderful and terrifying all at once. "Dominic, you should rest," he said, stepping back. "That was stressful for you and the baby. We can talk more later." But I knew we'd crossed the line we couldn't uncross. I was now officially under the protection of the mob. Derek would never touch me again. But I traded one complicated situation for another. The difference was this one felt like a choice. And despite everything I just learned, despite the danger I knew surrounded Dominic's world, I didn't want to leave. I was starting to want something I shouldn't want. Starting to feel something I shouldn't feel. I was starting to fall for the most dangerous man in the city. And from the way he looked at me, intense and protective and hungry all at once, I wasn't the only one falling. The next morning, I woke up to voices outside my bedroom door. Angry voices. I pressed my ear against the wood, my heart racing. "You've lost your mind, Dominic." It was a woman's voice, sharp and educated. Taking in some random pregnant woman? Making threats on her behalf? "Do you have any idea how this looks?" "I don't care how it looks," Dominic said, his voice tight with barely controlled anger. "Well, you should. The family is already questioning your judgment after Vanessa. Now they're going to think you're weak. Sentimental. That's dangerous for someone in your position. Let them think what they want. I won't let you destroy everything your father built, because you're having some kind of emotional breakdown. This woman needs to go." I opened the door before I could stop myself. Standing in the hallway was a woman in her 50s, elegant and intimidating in a navy suit. Her eyes swept over me with cold assessment, taking in my borrowed clothes and pregnant belly. "You must be Claire," she said, her tone making my name sound like an insult. "I'm Catherine Carver, Dominic's mother." Of course she was. She had the same dark eyes, the same commanding presence. But where Dominic's intensity felt protective, hers felt predatory. "Mrs. Carver," I said, trying to keep my voice steady. "Leave us," she said to Dominic. "I'd like to speak with Claire alone." "No," Dominic said flatly. "I wasn't asking." Catherine's voice could have cut glass. "5 minutes. Unless you don't trust me with your little project." Dominic looked at me and I saw the conflict in his face. Finally I nodded. "It's okay. I can handle 5 minutes." He hesitated, then walked away, but not before giving his mother a warning look that said more than words ever could. Catherine waited until he was gone, then moved closer to me. "Let me be very clear about something. I don't know what game you're playing, but my son is not your ticket to a better life." "I'm not playing any game," I said. "Please." A pregnant woman with nowhere to go, conveniently finding the richest, most powerful man in the city? You expect me to believe that's coincidence? Believe whatever you want. I didn't ask for any of this. But you're certainly not refusing it, are you? Catherine's smile was cold. "The clothes, the shelter, the protection. I'm sure next you'll need money. Then more money. Then you'll trap him with some sob story about your baby needing a father." Her words hit closer to home than I wanted to admit. Not because I was running a game, but because part of me had started to imagine exactly what she was describing. A life here. Safety. Dominic looking at my son like he was worth protecting too. "I'll leave," I said quietly. "I don't want to cause problems for Dominic." "Too late for that. You've already caused problems. But leaving now would make him chase after you, play the hero again. No, you're going to stay, but understand something. This little arrangement is temporary. Once your baby is born and you're back on your feet, you disappear from his life. Completely. Or I'll make sure you regret it." "Are you threatening me?" "I'm educating you. My son has a soft heart underneath all that armor. People have exploited that before. I won't let it happen again." "What happened with Vanessa wasn't his fault," I said, surprising myself by defending him. Catherine's expression flickered just for a second. "You don't know anything about Vanessa, or about this family, and you should keep it that way." She turned and walked away, leaving me shaking in the hallway. I heard the apartment door close, then footsteps approaching. Dominic appeared, his face tight with anger. "What did she say to you?" "Nothing I didn't already know," I lied. "That I don't belong in your world. You belong wherever you choose to be." He moved closer and I could smell his cologne, something woodsy and clean. "Don't let my mother intimidate you. She's protective, but she doesn't run my life." "She's right though. This situation is complicated. People are already questioning your judgment because of me. Let them question. I made my choice." "But why?" I looked up at him, needing to understand. "Why me? You could help anyone. Give money to shelters, hire security for other women. Why bring me into your home, into your life?" He was quiet for a long moment, and I watched emotions flicker across his face. Finally he said, "Because when I saw you that night, I didn't see a stranger. I saw someone who understood what it felt like to have everything you believed in shattered. And I needed that. I needed to remember I wasn't the only one drowning. So I'm what, therapy?" I tried to make it sound like a joke, but it came out hurt. "No. You're." He stopped, shaking his head. "I don't know what you are yet. But I know I'm not ready for you to leave." The intensity in his eyes made my breath catch. This was dangerous territory. Feelings building between two broken people who had no business wanting each other. But God help me, I did want him. Wanted the safety he represented, yes, but also just him. The man who made me soup and bought me books and looked at me like I mattered. "I should go," I whispered, but I didn't move. "Where?" Dominic asked. "Back to Derek? To the streets? To some shelter where you'd be just another case file. There has to be somewhere." "There is. Here." With me. He reached out slowly, giving me time to pull away, and touched my face. His hand was warm, gentle. Stay, Claire. At least until the baby comes. Let me make sure you're both safe and healthy. After that, if you want to leave, I won't stop you. I should have said no. Should have recognized this for what it was, two damaged people clinging to each other in a storm. But I was so tired of being strong, of being scared, of being alone. Okay, I said. I'll stay. Something shifted in his expression. Relief and something darker, more possessive. His thumb brushed my cheek, and for a heart-stopping moment, I thought he might kiss me. Instead, he stepped back, putting safe distance between us. I have to go handle some business, he said, his voice rougher than usual. Marco will be here if you need anything. After he left, I tried to settle into the day, but my mind kept racing. Catherine's threats, Dominic's intensity, the impossible situation I'd landed in. I was 7 months pregnant, legally still married to an abusive drunk, living with a mob boss I was developing very inappropriate feelings for. My life had become a disaster I couldn't even begin to untangle. Around noon, the apartment phone rang. Marco answered it, his face going serious. He said a few words I couldn't hear, then hung up and looked at me. That was the front desk. Your husband is in the lobby, demanding to see you. My blood went cold. He came back. Apparently he's drunk and making a scene. Building security won't let him up, but he's refusing to leave. Marco pulled out his phone. I'm calling Dominic. No, I said quickly. Dominic has enough to deal with. Can't security just make him leave? They're trying, but he keeps saying he'll go to the media. Tell them Dominic kidnapped his pregnant wife. It's an empty threat, but it's annoying. I moved to the window, looking down at the street below. Even from this height, I could see the commotion at the building entrance. A small crowd gathering. Phones out, probably recording. I'll go talk to him, I said. Absolutely not. Dominic would kill me if I let you anywhere near that guy. He's causing a scene that could bring attention to Dominic. Bad attention. Let me go down there, tell Derek to leave, end this. Marco looked conflicted. I'm coming with you. And at the first sign of trouble, we're done. We took the elevator down, Marco staying close to my side. When the doors opened to the lobby, I could hear Derek's voice echoing off the marble floors. I know she's here. Claire. Claire, get down here right now. He looked worse than I'd ever seen him. Unshaven, wild-eyed, his clothes stained and wrinkled. When he saw me exit the elevator, his face twisted into something ugly. There you are. Playing house with your new sugar daddy, while I've been losing my mind looking for you. You need to leave, Derek, I said, keeping my voice calm. We're getting divorced. It's over. It's not over until I say it's over. He tried to move toward me, but building security blocked his path. You're my wife. That baby is mine. You don't get to just walk away. You told me you were going to make me lose this baby. You hit me. You controlled me. You destroyed everything good between us. So yes, I do get to walk away. I made mistakes, okay? I drank too much. But I can change. We can fix this. His voice took on a wheedling tone I knew too well. The same tone he used after every beating, every broken promise. Come home, baby. Let me prove I can be better. No. You're choosing him over me? Derek's face went red. Some criminal over your own husband? What kind of mother are you going to be? The words hit like a slap. All my fears, my doubts about my ability to protect my son, to give him a good life, condensed into one cruel question. The kind who keeps him safe, I said, my voice shaking. Which means keeping him away from you. Derek lunged forward, breaking through the security guard's loose grip. He grabbed my arm, his fingers digging in exactly where the old bruises had finally faded. You're coming home, he snarled. Marco moved like lightning, breaking Derek's hold and shoving him back. Touch her again and you won't have hands to touch anything with. Derek stumbled, catching himself against the lobby desk. Security grabbed him properly this time, but he kept shouting. This isn't over, Claire. You hear me? I'll make your life hell. I'll tell everyone what a whore you are. I'll take that baby the second it's born. You're mine. They dragged him toward the exit, but his voice echoed until the doors closed behind him. I stood there shaking, my arm throbbing where he'd grabbed it. Let me see, Marco said, gently taking my arm. The skin was already reddening. Another set of finger-shaped bruises forming. Dominic needs to know about this. It's fine. I'm fine. You're not fine. And that guy is escalating. Next time he might not just grab your arm. We went back upstairs and Marco immediately called Dominic. I could hear Dominic's voice through the phone, sharp with concern and anger. When Marco hung up, he looked at me apologetically. He's on his way back. He's not happy. I can imagine. Dominic arrived 20 minutes later, his face like a thunderstorm. He took one look at my arm and his jaw clenched so hard I could hear his teeth grind. He touched you. It's just a bruise. It's nothing compared to what he used to do. It's not nothing. Dominic's voice was deadly quiet. I told him what would happen if he came near you again. I gave him a chance to walk away. He didn't take it. What are you going to do? I asked, suddenly afraid. Not of Dominic, but of what loving his protection might cost. What I should have done the first time. I'm going to make sure Derek Montgomery is no longer a problem. Don't hurt him. Please. I don't want that on my conscience. Dominic looked at me, and I saw him struggling with something. He put his hands on you while you're carrying his child. He threatened you. He's not going to stop, Claire. Men like him never do. Then scare him. Ruin him financially. Get him fired. I don't care. But don't hurt him. Not for me. Why do you still protect him? I'm not protecting him. I'm protecting me. And my baby. We don't need that kind of karma. Dominic studied my face for a long moment, then nodded slowly. All right. I'll do it your way. But Claire, if he tries this again, I'm not asking permission. He pulled out his phone and made a call. I need everything you can find on Derek Montgomery. Employment, finances, known associates, medical history, everything. I want it in 2 hours. When he hung up, he finally looked at me properly. Are you all right? The baby. We're okay. He scared me more than hurt me. That's still too much. Dominic moved closer. And this time when he touched my face, it felt different. More intimate. I can't stand the thought of anyone frightening you. Why do you care so much? I whispered. Because you're. He stopped, shaking his head. You should rest. This stress isn't good for you. But I didn't want to rest. I wanted him to finish that sentence. Wanted to understand what was building between us. This dangerous attraction that made no sense but felt more real than anything I'd experienced in years. Dominic. Don't, he said quietly. Don't ask me questions I shouldn't answer. Not yet. He left me standing there, my heart pounding, my mind racing. That night I couldn't sleep. I kept thinking about the way Dominic looked at me. The way his touch made me feel safe and wanted and seen. I thought about Catherine's warning, about Derek's threats, about the impossible situation I'd created. Around midnight, I heard movement in the apartment. I got up, wrapping a robe around my pregnant belly, and found Dominic sitting in the dark living room with a glass of whiskey. Can't sleep either? I asked. He looked up, and in the dim light from the city below, his face looked haunted. I keep thinking about all the ways this could go wrong. What do you mean? You here in my world. Derek is just the beginning. My mother is right, there are people who will see you as a weakness. A way to get to me. Then I'll leave. Tomorrow. I'll figure something out. That's not what I want. He set down his glass and stood, moving toward me. That's the opposite of what I want. Then what do you want? He stopped right in front of me, close enough that I could feel the heat radiating off his body. I want you to stay. I want to watch you get strong again. See you smile without fear in your eyes. I want to be there when your son is born and know he's safe. I want. He reached out, his hand hovering near my face but not quite touching. I want things I have no right to want. My breath caught. What if I want them too? You don't know what you're saying. A month ago you were married to someone else. You're vulnerable, traumatized. These feelings aren't real, they're just... Don't tell me what I feel, I said, surprising myself with the force of my words. I know I'm a mess. I know this timing is terrible. I know you're dangerous and I should run as far from you as possible. But when I'm with you, I feel alive for the first time in years. I feel like I matter. Like I'm not just something to be used and discarded. You do matter, Dominic said roughly. You matter more than you should. More than is safe. Then what are we doing? What is this? I don't know. But I know I'm not ready to stop. He finally touched me, his hand cupping my face with such gentleness it made my eyes sting with tears. I leaned into his touch, letting myself have this one moment of honesty. I'm falling for you, I whispered. I know I shouldn't be. I know it's crazy. But I am. Dominic's eyes darkened with something that made my stomach flip. Claire. The moment shattered as his phone rang, loud and jarring in the quiet apartment. He stepped back, pulling it out and answering with a sharp, "What?" His expression changed as he listened, going cold and hard. "When? How many? I'll be right there." He hung up and looked at me, and I saw the mob boss instead of the man who'd just been touching me so gently. "I have to go. There's a situation at one of my properties. Marco will stay with you." "Is it dangerous?" "It's handled. But I need to show my face, remind people who's in charge." He moved toward the door then stopped. "Lock this behind me. Don't open it for anyone but me or Marco. Understand?" "Yes." He left and I stood there in the dark, my face still warm from his touch, my heart still racing from his almost kiss. I was falling for a man I barely knew. A criminal who could kill without remorse, who lived in a world of violence and power that I couldn't begin to understand. And the terrifying part was I didn't want to stop falling. I wanted to see where this impossible thing between us could go, even if it destroyed us both. Dominic didn't come back that night. Or the next morning. Marco assured me everything was fine. That business sometimes took longer than expected. But I could see the tension in his shoulders. Something was wrong. I spent the day trying not to worry, reading the books from Dominic's shelf, eating food that tasted like cardboard because my stomach was in knots. By evening, I was pacing the apartment like a caged animal. That's when I heard voices in the hallway outside the apartment door. Not Dominic's voice. Someone else. I moved closer, pressing my ear against the wood. "I'm telling you she can't stay here." It was a man's voice, older, authoritative. "Dominic is making decisions with his heart instead of his head. And it's going to get people killed. Mr. Carver, with all due respect, that's between you and your son." Marco's voice, diplomatic but firm. "My son is compromised. First Vanessa, now this pregnant stray he picked up. He's becoming a liability. He's your boss. And mine. I'm not going to undermine him. Even when he's wrong. That woman is a problem, Marco. She's a complication we don't need. The Rossi family is already making moves, testing our boundaries. They see Dominic as weak because he's playing house with some abused housewife instead of handling business." My hand went to my mouth. "Mr. Carver, Dominic's father, what do you want me to do about it?" Marco asked. "I want you to make her understand she needs to leave. Voluntarily. Before this situation gets worse." "And if she won't?" There was a long pause. "Then we'll have to handle it another way." The threat in those words made my blood run cold. I backed away from the door, my mind racing. Dominic's own father saw me as a problem. A liability. Something that needed to be handled. I heard Marco say something else I couldn't make out, then footsteps retreating. A moment later, the apartment door opened and Marco came in, his face carefully neutral. "How much did you hear?" he asked. "Enough." "His father wants me gone." Marco sighed, running a hand through his hair. "Mr. Carver Sr. is old school. He doesn't understand why Dominic would risk family business for a personal situation." "Is it true? Are people seeing Dominic as weak because of me?" "There's been some talk." Nothing Dominic can't handle. But there shouldn't have to be talk at all. I'm causing him problems. I felt tears burning my eyes. Maybe everyone is right. Maybe I should go. Where would you go, Claire? I don't know. But I can't stay here knowing I'm putting Dominic in danger. That's not fair to him. Marco looked at me for a long moment. Can I tell you something? Off the record. Okay. I've worked for Dominic for 8 years. I've seen him make hard decisions, brutal decisions. I've seen him run this family with nothing but cold calculation. And then you showed up, and for the first time since I've known him, I've seen him smile. Really smile. Not the corporate smile or the intimidation smile. An actual genuine smile. That doesn't change the fact that I'm causing problems. Problems are part of this life. But happiness? That's rare. And I think you make him happy. So don't make this decision based on what his father wants or what's easier for the family. Make it based on what you want. Before I could answer, Marco's phone rang. He answered it, his expression changing from concern to alarm. When? Is he hurt? I'll be right there. He hung up and looked at me. That was the hospital. Dominic's been shot. The world tilted. What? He's alive, he's in surgery. I need to go there now. I'm calling someone to stay with you. No. I'm coming with you. Claire, that's not a good idea. The hospital will be crawling with family, with people who already don't want you here. I don't care. If he's hurt, I need to be there. Marco looked like he wanted to argue, but something in my face must have convinced him. Fine. But you stay close to me and you don't talk to anyone. Understood. We took Dominic's car, Marco driving like we were in a chase scene. I sat in the passenger seat, my hand on my belly, trying not to fall apart. Shot. Dominic had been shot. The man who'd protected me, who'd made me feel safe for the first time in years, was in surgery fighting for his life. The hospital was chaos. Men in expensive suits filled the waiting room, all of them looking dangerous and on edge. When Marco and I walked in, every single head turned toward us. The temperature in the room seemed to drop. What is she doing here? Catherine's voice cut through the murmur of conversation. She stood near the nurse's station, her face pale but composed. Marco, I told you to keep her away. She has a right to be here, Marco said. She has no rights. She's nobody. A stranger my son made the mistake of pitying. Where is he? I asked, my voice shaking. Is he okay? Why would that be any of your concern? Catherine moved toward me, and I saw real hatred in her eyes. This is your fault. He was distracted because of you. Worried about some pregnant nobody instead of watching his back. That's not fair, Marco started, but Catherine cut him off. Fair? You want to talk about fair? My son is in surgery with a bullet in his chest, because he's been playing hero for this girl instead of focusing on the family. What happened? I asked. Please just tell me what happened. An older man stood up from one of the chairs. He had Dominic's eyes, but colder, harder. This had to be his father. There was an ambush at the warehouse, he said, his voice flat. 3 men, professionals. They were waiting for Dominic. Someone tipped them off about his schedule, about where he'd be. A leak, Marco said quietly. A distraction, Dominic's father corrected, his eyes on me. My son has been so focused on his personal life that he missed the signs. Got sloppy. And now he's paying the price. I didn't ask him to protect me, I said, hating how small my voice sounded. I didn't want any of this. But you took it, didn't you? Catherine stepped closer. Took the apartment, the clothes, the safety. Let my son risk everything for you. And for what? What are you to him? You're just some broken woman with another man's baby. You'll never be part of this family. Her words hit like physical blows, each one landing on my most vulnerable places. She was right. I was nobody. A charity case. Complication. Mrs. Carver. A doctor appeared, still in surgical scrubs. Your son is out of surgery. Everyone moved at once, surrounding the doctor. I stayed back, suddenly aware that I didn't belong here. These were Dominic's people. His family. His world. And I was just someone he'd felt sorry for one rainy night. The bullet missed his heart by 2 inches, the doctor was saying. He's stable, but the next 24 hours are critical. He lost a lot of blood. He's sedated right now, but you can see him one at a time. Catherine went first, of course. Then Dominic's father. Then other family members I didn't recognize. I stood against the wall watching, feeling more alone than I had running through the rain. Marco stayed next to me. Don't let them get in your head. They're not wrong though. I am a distraction. I am causing problems. You're also the reason he's been happy. Don't forget that. Hours passed. Family members went in and out of Dominic's room. No one spoke to me. Most of them looked at me like I was something dirty they'd stepped in. Finally, around midnight, the waiting room had cleared out. Only Catherine, Dominic's father, Marco and I remained. You should go home, Marco said gently. Get some rest. I'll call you if anything changes. I want to see him. Claire. Please. Just for a minute. I need to see that he's okay. Catherine stood up. Absolutely not. You are not family. You have no right to be in his room. Mrs. Carver, with respect, I think Dominic would want. My son is sedated and cannot make decisions right now. I am making them for him. And I'm telling you, she does not go in that room. I felt something break inside me. She was right. I wasn't family. I wasn't anything. I was just a scared pregnant woman who'd gotten caught up in something I couldn't understand. Okay, I said quietly. I'll go. Marco will drive you, Catherine said, her voice cold with victory. I'll take a cab. Marco will drive you. And he'll help you pack your things. Because you're not coming back to my son's apartment. You can't just. I can do whatever I want. That apartment belongs to the family. And I'm telling you, you're no longer welcome there. I looked at Dominic's father, hoping he might intervene. But he just looked at me with those cold eyes and said nothing. Let me leave him a note, I said. At least let me tell him I'm okay. Catherine considered this. Fine. Write your note. Say your goodbye. And then you leave and you don't contact him again. If you care about him at all, you'll let him focus on his recovery and his responsibilities without the distraction. Marco handed me paper and a pen. My hand shook as I wrote. Dominic, I'm so sorry you got hurt. I'm so grateful for everything you did for me. You saved my life and my baby's life. But your mother is right. I'm a complication you don't need. I'm going to figure things out on my own. Please don't look for me. Be safe. Be happy. Thank you for making me remember what kindness feels like. Claire. I folded the note and gave it to Marco. Make sure he gets this? Claire, don't do this. Wait until he wakes up. Talk to him. And say what? That his family is right? That I'm putting him in danger? He already knows that. He's just too good to admit it. I walked out of the hospital into the cold night, my hand on my belly, tears streaming down my face. Marco followed, trying to convince me to reconsider, but I'd made up my mind. He drove me back to Dominic's apartment. I packed my few belongings into a bag, including the clothes he bought me because I had nothing else. I left the phone he'd given me on the counter. That felt wrong to take. Where are you going to go? Marco asked. There's a women's shelter downtown. They take pregnant women. Let me at least give you money. No. I need to do this myself. I looked around the apartment one last time, remembering breakfast with Dominic, late-night conversations, the way he looked at me like I mattered. Tell him I'm sorry. For all of it. This is a mistake, Marco said. Maybe. But it's my mistake to make. He drove me to the shelter. A plain building in a rough neighborhood. It was everything Dominic's apartment wasn't. But it was safe and it was mine, and I wouldn't be putting anyone in danger by being there. I checked in at the front desk, gave them my real name for the first time in weeks. They assigned me a bed in a shared room with 3 other women. I lay down on the thin mattress, my hand on my belly, and let myself cry. I'd had 1 week of feeling safe. 1 week of being cared for. 1 week of falling for someone who made me feel worth saving. And now it was over. I was alone again. Pregnant, broke, and alone. But at least Dominic would be safe. At least he could focus on healing, on his family, on his responsibilities without worrying about me. I told myself that was enough. That knowing he was alive and would be okay was all I needed. I told myself I'd done the right thing. But as I lay there in the dark, listening to strangers breathing around me, I felt more broken than I had running through the rain. Because this time I wasn't running from someone who hurt me. I was running from someone who tried to save me. And that hurt worse than anything Derek had ever done. The shelter smelled like industrial cleaner and desperation. I'd been there for 5 days, and each morning I woke up feeling like I'd made the biggest mistake of my life. But I couldn't go back. Catherine had made it clear I wasn't welcome, and more than that, I couldn't be the reason Dominic got hurt again. The women in my room were kind enough. Rita, a 40-year-old with 2 kids in foster care, trying to get clean so she could get them back. Jasmine, 19 and 5 months pregnant from a boyfriend who disappeared when she told him. And Lynn, who never talked about why she was there but had scars on her arms that told their own story. We didn't ask each other too many questions. That was the unspoken rule. Everyone here was running from something or toward something, and privacy was the only luxury we had. I spent my days attending the mandatory classes on job skills and budgeting, things I should have learned years ago but Derek had made sure I never needed to know. I met with a social worker named Paula who helped me apply for government assistance, for medical coverage, for everything I'd need when the baby came. "You're doing really well," Paula said during our 3rd meeting. "A lot of women in your situation struggle with the paperwork, but you're organized and focused." "I don't have a choice," I said. "The baby comes in 2 months. I need to have everything ready." "Have you thought about where you'll go after he's born? The shelter can only keep you for 90 days total, and you're already using up your time." I hadn't thought that far ahead. Couldn't think that far ahead. "I'll figure something out. There are transitional housing programs, but they have waiting lists. I'd recommend applying now. More paperwork. More proving I was worthy of help. More feeling like a burden on a system that was already stretched too thin." That night I couldn't sleep. My back ached from the thin mattress, and the baby was pressing on my bladder constantly. I got up to use the bathroom for the 3rd time in an hour, and when I came back Rita was awake. "You okay, honey?" she asked quietly. "Just pregnant," I said, trying to smile. "That's not what I mean. You've been crying every night since you got here." "Had I? I didn't even realize." "I'm fine." "You're not fine. None of us are fine. That's why we're here." She sat up in her bed. "You want to talk about it?" I did. God, I wanted to tell someone everything. About Dominic, about the impossible feelings I developed, about walking away from the only safety I'd known because his family was right I was a liability. But I couldn't. Because talking about Dominic Carver in a place like this felt dangerous. His world and this world didn't mix. "Just missing someone," I said finally. "The baby's father?" "No. Someone who tried to help me. Someone I had to leave behind." Rita nodded like she understood. "Sometimes the hardest part isn't leaving the bad ones. It's leaving the good ones when we know we're not good for them." Her words hit too close to home. I went back to bed, but sleep didn't come. The next morning everything got worse. I was in the common room trying to read, when one of the shelter staff approached me. Her face was serious. "Claire, there's someone here to see you." My heart jumped. Dominic. Maybe he'd woken up, read my note, come looking for me anyway. But when I got to the visiting area, it wasn't Dominic sitting there. It was Derek's mother. I hadn't seen Patricia Montgomery in over a year. She'd made it clear when Derek and I got married that she thought I wasn't good enough for her son. We'd exchanged maybe 10 words total in 3 years. "Mrs. Montgomery," I said, confused. "What are you doing here?" "Sit down, Claire. We need to talk." I sat, wary. Patricia was a small woman, but she had a way of making you feel like you were being judged and found lacking. "Derek told me everything," she said. "About you leaving, about the baby, about the man you've been living with. Derek has been abusing me for 3 years. I said flatly. I left to protect myself and my baby. Derek has his problems, yes. The drinking. But abuse is a strong word, don't you think? He hit me. Regularly. He threatened to make me lose this baby. That's not a problem. That's abuse. Patricia's lips thinned. My son says you're the one who's unstable. That you made up stories to justify running off with another man. A criminal, from what I understand. I didn't make up anything. Then where are your police reports? Your hospital records? If he was really abusing you, you would have documentation. It was the same argument Derek had made. The same trap I'd fallen into. Thinking if I just stayed quiet didn't make waves, it would get better. Why are you here? I asked. Because despite everything, that baby you're carrying is my grandchild. My only grandchild. And I'm not going to let you raise him in places like this, teaching him to hate his father. I would never teach him to hate anyone. But I also won't teach him that it's okay to hit women. Derek wants to be part of his son's life. He's willing to forgive you for your indiscretion with that criminal. He's willing to take you back, give you another chance. I almost laughed. Forgive me? For leaving after he beat me? How generous. He's getting help. He's been sober for a week. He's going to meetings. A week. Derek had promised sobriety dozens of times. It never lasted. I'm not going back to him. Ever. Patricia's expression hardened. Then you leave me no choice. Derek is filing for full custody of the baby. And I'm going to help him get it. The room tilted. What? You have no job, no home, no stability. You're living in a homeless shelter. You ran off with a known criminal. Any judge will see that you're unfit to raise a child. I'm in a shelter because I was escaping abuse. Prove it. Oh wait, you can't. Because you never reported it. Never got help. Just ran away and shacked up with another man. Patricia stood up. My lawyer will be in touch. I suggest you get yourself a good attorney, though I don't know how you'll afford one. She left and I sat there shaking. They were going to try to take my baby. The only thing I had left, the only pure thing in my life, and they were going to try to take him. I went back to my room and threw up. Jasmine held my hair back, asking if I was okay. I couldn't answer. Couldn't breathe. Paula found me an hour later, curled up on my bed. Claire, I heard what happened. Let's talk about your options. What options? She's right. I have nothing. No job, no home. No documentation of the abuse. How am I supposed to fight Derek and his mother? They have money for lawyers. I can barely afford food. There are legal aid services. Lawyers who work specifically with domestic violence survivors. But I don't have proof. I never took pictures of the bruises. Never called the police. I was too scared, too ashamed. And now that's going to cost me my son. Paula sat next to me on the bed. Listen to me. You're not the first woman to be in this situation. Courts understand that abuse victims often don't report. We can get statements from the hospital when you give birth documenting any old injuries. We can have you evaluated by a psychologist who specializes in trauma. We can build a case. Against people with money and resources and a grandmother willing to lie for her son? It's not hopeless. But you need to fight, Claire. You need to show the court that you're stable and capable. How? I'm living in a shelter. I have 8 weeks until this baby comes and nowhere to go after he's born. We'll figure it out. One step at a time. But even Paula's optimism couldn't reach the dark place I was sinking into. Everything I'd tried to escape, everything I'd sacrificed, and I was right back where I started. Worse actually. Because now I'd lost Dominic too. That night I broke my own rule. I walked 6 blocks to a convenience store and bought a newspaper, searching for any news about Dominic. I found a small article buried in the business section. Dominic Carver, alleged head of the Carver crime family, was released from the hospital yesterday following treatment for a gunshot wound. Sources say the shooting was gang-related, though no arrests have been made. Carver declined to comment. He was alive. He was out of the hospital. He was okay. I read the article 3 more times, memorizing every word. relief and longing mixing into something painful in my chest. The next week was a nightmare of paperwork and panic. I met with a legal aid attorney named Sharon who was kind but overworked. She explained that custody cases took months, that nothing would be decided before the baby was born, but that I needed to start building my case now. The best thing you can do is get stable, Sharon said. Get into transitional housing, get a job. Show that you're capable of providing for your child. I'm 8 months pregnant. Who's going to hire me? It's illegal to discriminate based on pregnancy. It's also impossible to prove that's why they didn't hire me. Sharon didn't argue because we both knew I was right. I applied to 15 transitional housing programs. 12 had waiting lists of over a year. 2 rejected me because I didn't meet their sobriety requirements. They needed documented proof I'd never had addiction issues, and I didn't have any documentation of anything. 1 said they'd let me know. I applied to 20 jobs. I got 3 interviews. All 3 took one look at my enormous belly and said they'd be in touch. None of them were. My savings from the small amount of cash Marco had slipped me despite my protests was almost gone. I had maybe $200 left. Not enough for an apartment deposit. Barely enough for food. I was running out of time and options. 2 weeks after leaving Dominic, I woke up to cramping. Not Braxton Hicks this time. Real contractions. Still irregular, still far apart, but real. You need to go to the hospital, Rita said when I told her. I can't afford a hospital. You have Medicaid now. Paula got you covered. Go. I took the bus to the county hospital, the same one where Dominic had been, though I tried not to think about that. The emergency room was packed. I waited for 3 hours before being seen, the contractions getting stronger, closer together. Finally, a nurse took me back. They checked me, hooked me up to monitors, checked the baby's heartbeat. You're in early labor, the doctor said. But you're only 33 weeks. We need to stop this if we can. They admitted me, gave me medication to stop the contractions, monitored me constantly. I lay in the hospital bed alone, terrified. The contractions slowed but didn't stop completely. The doctor said I'd need to stay for a few days, make sure the baby wasn't coming early. I had no clothes except what I'd been wearing. No toiletries. No phone to call anyone. Not that I had anyone to call. A nurse took pity on me and brought me hospital scrubs to wear and a toothbrush from the supply closet. Another nurse, older with kind eyes, sat with me during her break. You got family, honey? She asked. No. The baby's father? Not in the picture. Friends. I shook my head, not trusting my voice. Well, you got us. We'll take care of you. Her kindness broke something in me. I cried, ugly and hard. All the fear and loneliness and desperation pouring out. I don't know how to do this, I sobbed. I don't know how to have a baby alone and keep him safe and fight for custody and find a place to live. I don't know how to do any of it. The nurse held my hand. 1 breath at a time. That's all you can do. Just keep breathing. I stayed in the hospital for 4 days. The contractions stopped. The baby's heartbeat stayed strong. They discharged me with instructions to take it easy, avoid stress, come back immediately if labor started again. Avoid stress. As if that were possible. I took the bus back to the shelter, exhausted and scared. When I walked into my room, Rita looked up with relief. Thank God. We were worried about you. Baby's okay. False alarm. Claire, someone came looking for you. While you were gone. My heart jumped. Who? Didn't give his name. But he was big, expensive suit, had that look. You know, dangerous. Asked where you were, when you'd be back. The staff wouldn't tell him anything, but he left something for you. She handed me an envelope. My hand shook as I opened it. Inside was $5,000 in cash, and a note in handwriting I didn't recognize. From someone who cares. Use it to get safe. Don't be stupid and refuse. It wasn't signed, but I knew who it was from. Or rather, who had sent someone. Dominic. He'd found me. Despite my note, despite leaving, despite everything, he'd found me. And he was still trying to protect me. I should have been angry. Should have returned the money. Insisted on doing this myself. But I was 8 months pregnant, facing a custody fight, living in a shelter with a time limit, and completely out of options. Pride was a luxury I couldn't afford. I took the money to Paula the next day. I had some savings I didn't know about, I lied. Can you help me find an apartment? Her face lit up. With that much for a deposit? Absolutely. Within a week, I had a tiny studio apartment in a rough neighborhood. It wasn't much. One room with a kitchenette, a bathroom the size of a closet, and windows that looked out at a brick wall. But it was mine. Safe. Clean enough. I bought secondhand furniture, a crib from a thrift store, baby clothes from discount shops. I made it a home. Sharon, my lawyer, seemed pleased. This is good, Claire. Shows stability. Shows you can provide for the baby. But I knew it wasn't enough. Derek's mother had money and connections. She'd hire expensive lawyers who'd tear apart my life, expose every mistake, make me look unfit. And the worst part was sometimes I believed them. Sometimes late at night, lying in my studio apartment with my hand on my belly, I wondered if my baby wouldn't be better off with Derek's mother. She had a house, money, stability. She could give him everything I couldn't. But then I'd remember Derek's hands on me. His rage. His cruelty. And I knew that money and houses meant nothing if they came with violence. I had to fight. For my son. For myself. For the life we deserved. Even if I had no idea how to win. 1 month before my due date, Derek showed up at my apartment. I don't know how he found me. Maybe his mother hired a private investigator. Maybe he'd been watching the shelter. It didn't matter. I opened my door to get my mail and he was just there, standing in the hallway. Hello, Claire. He looked different. Clean, sober, almost like the man I'd fallen in love with 6 years ago. That scared me more than if he'd been drunk. You need to leave, I said. I just want to talk. 5 minutes. We have nothing to talk about. We have our son to talk about. He gestured to my belly. He's coming soon. Don't you think we should figure this out before he gets here? I have a lawyer. Talk to her. I don't want lawyers, Claire. I want us to work this out ourselves. Like adults. Every instinct screamed at me to slam the door. But part of me, the part that had loved him once, wanted to believe he'd changed. Wanted to believe this could be resolved without courts and custody battles. 5 minutes, I said. And the door stays open. He came in, looking around the small apartment. I saw judgment in his eyes, quickly hidden. It's nice, he lied. Small but nice. What do you want, Derek? I want to be part of my son's life. I know I messed up. I know I hurt you. But I'm getting help now. Real help. I'm sober, going to AA meetings every day, seeing a therapist. You've said that before. This time is different. Losing you, almost losing my son, it woke me up. Made me realize what matters. I'm glad you're getting help. But that doesn't change what happened. That doesn't make it safe for me to trust you. I'm not asking you to trust me right away. I'm asking you to give me a chance to prove I've changed. Let me be there when he's born. Let me help with Dr. Bill's baby stuff. Let me show you I can be the father he deserves. It sounded reasonable. It sounded almost convincing. But I'd heard these words before. After every beating, every broken promise. The script never changed. No, I said. My lawyer will work out visitation after the baby is born. Supervised visitation. But you don't get to be part of my life anymore. Derek's face changed, the mask slipping. You're really going to keep my son from me? After everything I'm doing to get better. I'm keeping him safe. There's a difference. Safe from what? I haven't touched you in months. I'm sober. What more do you want from me? I want you to leave. Your 5 minutes are up. He stood there, and I saw him struggling with something. The old Derek would have exploded. Would have grabbed me, shouted, broken something. This Derek just nodded slowly. Fine. If that's how you want to play it. But my mother was right. You're going to regret making this hard. Is that a threat? It's a fact. See you in court, Claire. He left and I locked every lock on my door, then sank to the floor, shaking. He'd seemed so normal. So reasonable. That's what made it terrifying. Because I knew it was an act. Knew that underneath the sober, helpful exterior was the same man who'd put his hands around my throat and told me I was worthless. I called Sharon and told her about the visit. He's building his case, she said. Showing he's trying to co-parent, making you look unreasonable for refusing. It's a common tactic. So what do? Document everything. Every contact, every conversation. And don't see him alone again. That night, I broke down and did something I'd sworn I wouldn't do. I walked to the convenience store, bought a burner phone with the last of Dominic's money, and called the number I'd memorized from the phone he'd given me. Marco answered on the second ring. Yeah. It's Claire. Silence. Then Jesus Christ. Where are you? Dominic has been losing his mind. I can't tell you where I am. I just need it. I needed to know he's okay. That he recovered. He's fine physically. Emotionally, not so much. You leaving almost destroyed him worse than the bullet. Guilt washed over me. I had to. His mother made it clear I was causing problems. His mother doesn't run his life. And he's been looking for you everywhere. Tell him to stop. Tell him I'm okay, the baby's okay, and he needs to forget about me. He's not going to do that. Then don't tell him you heard from me. Please, Marco. It's better this way. For who? Not for him. And I'm guessing not for you either. I'm managing. Are you? Because you sound like you're about to break. I was about to completely shatter. I have to go, I whispered. Claire, wait. Whatever you need, whatever you're dealing with, Dominic can help. Just let him. He's already helped enough. More than enough. But his world and mine, they don't work together. His family was right about that. His family doesn't know what they're talking about. Goodbye, Marco. I hung up before he could argue more, before I could give in to the desperate urge to tell him everything, to ask for help I had no right to ask for. I threw the burner phone in a dumpster on my way home. 2 weeks later I got the court papers. Derek was filing for full custody, claiming I was mentally unstable, financially incapable, and had abandoned him to live with a known criminal. His mother was listed as a character witness, ready to testify that I was unfit. Sharon looked at the papers with a grim expression. This is aggressive. They're not holding back. Can we fight it? We can try. But Claire, I have to be honest with you. Your living situation, your lack of employment, and the fact that you were living with Dominic Carver, those are all going to be used against you. Derek's lawyer is good, expensive, and they're painting a picture of you as unstable, and you as someone who makes poor decisions. So I'm going to lose my baby. I didn't say that, but we need to strengthen your case. Do you have anyone who can testify on your behalf? Character witnesses? Anyone who can speak to Derek's abuse? I thought about it. I had no friends, no family. The women from the shelter barely knew me. Paula could testify, but she'd only known me a few weeks. No, I said quietly. I have no one. That was my rock bottom. Sitting in a legal aid office, 8.5 months pregnant, realizing I had absolutely no one who could stand up and say I was worth fighting for. I'd never felt more alone in my entire life. And the worst part was knowing that somewhere in this city was a man who would fight for me, who would make all of this go away with a phone call. But I'd walked away from him to keep him safe. And now I was paying the price for that choice. My baby kicked inside me, strong and insistent, reminding me why I had to keep fighting. Even when I had nothing left. Even when the odds were impossible. I had to keep fighting. For him. I went into labor 3 days before my court date. It was 2 in the morning when my water broke, soaking through the sheets of my second-hand mattress. The contractions came fast and hard. Nothing like the false labor from before. This was real. This was happening. I called 911, my hands shaking so badly I could barely hold the phone. Then I grabbed the bag I'd packed weeks ago and waited by the door, breathing through contractions that felt like my body was tearing in half. The ambulance came. They loaded me in, asked questions I could barely answer between contractions. Did I have someone to call? No. Was anyone meeting me at the hospital? No. Was I alone? Yes. Completely alone. They took me to the same county hospital where I'd been before. The labor and delivery ward was busy. Nurses moving efficiently between rooms. They got me into a bed, checked me, and the news wasn't good. You're already 7 centimeters dilated, the nurse said. This baby is coming fast. Is there anyone you want us to call? I shook my head, unable to speak through another contraction. The next 6 hours were a blur of pain and fear. I'd read books about childbirth, taken the free classes at the shelter, but nothing prepared me for this. For the loneliness of it. Every other woman I could hear in nearby rooms had someone with them. Partners, mothers, friends. Voices saying you're doing great and I'm here and you're not alone. I had strangers in scrubs who were kind but busy, who had 6 other patients to care for, who couldn't hold my hand through every contraction. At 8 in the morning, after pushing for what felt like hours, my son was born. They put him on my chest immediately, this tiny, screaming, perfect human being. He had dark hair and Derek's nose and my eyes. He was 7 pounds exactly, healthy and strong despite coming 2 weeks early. He's beautiful, the nurse said, helping me hold him properly. Have you chosen a name? I looked down at my son, this miracle I'd somehow created despite everything. Ethan, I whispered. His name is Ethan. Ethan James Montgomery. Though I decided right then I was changing our last name as soon as legally possible. He wouldn't carry Derek's name. He wouldn't carry that legacy. They took Ethan to clean him up and check him over while they delivered the placenta and stitched me up. I lay there exhausted, my body aching, my heart so full it hurt. I'd done it. I'd survived pregnancy, escaped abuse, found safety and lost it, and still managed to bring this beautiful boy into the world. The nurse brought Ethan back wrapped in a hospital blanket, a tiny blue hat on his head. He's perfect. All his tests look good. Let's try feeding him. She helped me figure out breastfeeding, which was harder than it looked, but Ethan latched on eventually. I stared down at him, overwhelmed by the fierce love I felt. I would do anything for this child. Anything. You have a visitor. Another nurse said from the doorway. She says she's family? My heart sank. Patricia. Of course she'd found out somehow. Probably had someone watching me, waiting for this moment. Send her in, I said, holding Ethan closer. But it wasn't Patricia who walked through the door. It was Catherine Carver. She looked as elegant as ever in a cream-colored suit. Her hair perfect, her expression unreadable. She stood at the foot of my bed, looking at me and Ethan. Mrs. Carver, I said, too shocked to say anything else. I heard you'd gone into labor. I have connections at this hospital. She moved closer, her eyes on Ethan. May I? I didn't want to hand him over, but something in her face made me. She took Ethan carefully, holding him like she knew exactly what she was doing. He's beautiful, she said quietly. Looks like you. What are you doing here? She didn't answer right away, just looked at Ethan, something soft crossing her face. I have 3 sons. Dominic is my youngest. When he was born, my husband was in prison, facing 20 years for racketeering. I was alone in a hospital room much like this one, holding my baby, terrified of what his life would be. I didn't know what to say. Catherine had never shared anything personal before. I raised those boys in a world of violence and crime because I had no other choice. Their father's choices became my burden, and I carried it because that's what you do for family. She looked up at me. But I always wondered what my life would have been like if I'd had a choice. If I'd been brave enough to walk away. Why are you telling me this? Because you were brave enough. You walked away from abuse. You walked away from my son, even though I know you have feelings for him, because you thought it was the right thing to do. And you did all of it while carrying this child with no money, no family, no support. She handed Ethan back to me. That takes strength I'm not sure I ever had. You told me to leave. You said I was a complication. I did. And I was wrong. Catherine sat in the chair next to my bed. After you left, after Dominic recovered enough to realize you were gone, I watched my son break in a way that Bullet never could have. He looked for you everywhere. Spent resources, called in favors, drove Marco insane trying to find you. And when I asked him why, do you know what he said? I shook my head, afraid to hear it. He said you were the first real thing he'd had in years. That everyone in his life wanted something from him except